My boss said, janitors don't retire wealthy. You should be realistic about your financial future. The comment came during my annual review at Hartwell Corporation. My supervisor, Patricia, was going over my performance while I sat there in my custodial uniform. Michael, you do excellent work, but I noticed you've been asking about the company's 401k matching. Janitors don't typically retire wealthy. You should be realistic about your financial expectations. Patricia made $85,000 a year, managing the cleaning staff, and acted like she was doing me a favor by giving me financial advice. She'd make comments about how service workers needed to focus on job security rather than investment dreams. What Patricia didn't know was that I'd been studying the stock market for 6 years. Every night after my shift, I'd go home and research companies, read earnings reports, and analyze market trends. I started investing with just $100 when I was 22. The beauty of working nights was that I had access to all the corporate offices. I'd empty trash cans and overhear executive conversations about quarterly results, merger discussions, and product launches. Information that most retail investors never get. I wasn't insider trading. I was just paying attention to publicly available information that happened to be discussed in the offices I cleaned. When executives were excited about earnings, I'd research their competitors. When they mentioned struggling with supply chains, I'd look into logistics companies. Over 6 years, my portfolio grew to $280,000. I'd reinvested every dividend, bought during market dips, and held quality companies long term. My average annual return was 14%, significantly beating the market. Patricia continued her lecture during my review. People in your position should focus on stability. Maybe consider community college for a trade certification. That's a more realistic path to financial improvement. Last month, Hartwell Corporation announced they were being acquired by a larger firm. The news sent our stock price up 30% overnight. I'd been buying company shares through the employee stock purchase plan for 3 years, getting them at a 15% discount. That acquisition made my Hartwell holdings worth $95,000 alone. Combined with my other investments, my portfolio hit $375,000. I was 28 years old with more money invested than most people save in their entire careers. The day after the acquisition announcement, Patricia called an all-staff meeting. She was explaining how the buyout would affect employee benefits and retirement planning. This is actually a great example, she said, pointing to a chart. The employees who participated in our stock purchase plan will see nice gains. Of course, most service staff don't typically invest in company stock. I raised my hand. Actually, I've been buying shares through the plan for 3 years. Patricia looked surprised. Really? How many shares do you own? I pulled out my phone and opened my brokerage app. About 1,200 shares, worth roughly $95,000 after the acquisition premium. The room went completely silent. Other janitors and maintenance staff were staring at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. Patricia's face went pale. Michael, that's not possible on your salary. It's possible when you invest 20% of every paycheck for 6 years, I said, showing her my portfolio summary. Total investment account value is $375,000. Patricia was scrolling through my account details, her mouth hanging open. This shows consistent investing since 2018. How did you know which stocks to buy? I read everything. Annual reports, SEC filings, industry analysis. Plus, working here gives me insights into how well-managed companies actually operate. The other employees were asking to see my phone, amazed that someone they worked alongside had built significant wealth. Most of them had assumed investing was only for rich people. Patricia sat down heavily. Michael, you have more invested than I do and I make twice your salary. Different priorities, I said. You spend money on lifestyle. I spend money on assets. After the meeting, Patricia asked to speak privately. Why didn't you tell me about your investing success during our previous reviews? Because every time I mentioned financial planning, you told me to be realistic about my limitations. She looked embarrassed. I assumed people in custodial work weren't interested in wealth building. The janitor you've been giving financial advice to has been outperforming the market for 6 years, I said. Maybe assumptions about intelligence and ambition based on job titles aren't very accurate. The next week, 3 coworkers asked me to help them start investment accounts. Patricia stopped giving unsolicited financial advice and actually asked me for stock recommendations.